Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into some really big questions, the kind raised by Thomas J. Chalko in his book, The Freedom of Choice.
Yeah, it's quite a read.
Definitely. And we're not just, summarizing it. Our goal is to really pull out the core ideas about our intellect, free will, maybe even the whole point of existence.
We want to give you, the listener, a way to grab these, pretty profound concepts quickly, but, properly.
Right. Expect some maybe surprising thoughts, those aha moments, without feeling totally overloaded.
And our main source here, really our only source for this dive, is Chalko's book itself, The Mission.
The mission is to really get Chalko's take on how much progress you can make just by going within, studying yourself as part of this whole universe.
Okay, let's get right into it then. Chalko starts things off with this pretty memorable picture.
Oh, yeah, the dog.
Right. A dog choosing between a diamond, sparkling away, and, feces.
Not much of a choice for the dog, is it?
Yeah.
You go straight for the less valuable option, perfectly happy because that's all it understands.
And that's his point right there. Our understanding, our intellect, fundamentally limits the choices we can even see, let alone make. We only choose what we can grasp and value.
It sets up the whole book, really. He's saying, develop your intellect, expand your understanding, and you expand your choices.
Exactly. And he throws down this kind of challenge to the reader. Don't just toss aside ideas that seem weird at first.
Yeah, he says, come back to them. As your understanding grows, those ideas might suddenly click, like finding these hidden gems you missed before.
A good reminder for tackling some of these concepts. So with that in mind, let's look at his argument for a great intellect.
He starts simply enough, he asks, which is easier to make? A house, or, say, a living thing, like a plant or an animal.
Obvious answer. A house. I mean, it's complicated, sure, but creating life, that's a whole other level of complexity.
Then he pushes it. Could a house just, build itself? If you left all the bricks and wood lying around for long enough?
Again, obviously not. It needs a plan, a design, an intelligence to put it all together. And intellect has to be there first.
And that's the core of his argument. If a relatively simple house needs intelligence, what about something vastly more complex, like life itself?
The logical step he takes is that life, with all its incredible, mind-boggling complexity, must also be the product of a pre-existing, great intellect.
And not just assembled, like a kit. This intellect had to imagine it first, conceive of it.
Right. To imagine life before designing and creating it, that's a huge step.
And this leads straight into his ideas about purpose.
Because his thinking goes, an intellect that's smart, capable of designing a whole universe, wouldn't just do it for no reason, right? There'd have to be a purpose behind it all.
Which sets up the book's main quest, really. Finding and proving, or at least understanding, the purpose of the whole universe and life itself. It's ambitious, to say the least.
Hugely ambitious. But Chalko thinks that by seriously engaging with this, by looking inside ourselves and at the cosmos, we can move past just believing in a purpose.
To actually knowing it, knowing our place.
That seems to be the idea, to gain a real perspective, not just faith.
So where does this whole journey start, according to him?
It starts at the beginning, but his beginning is, it's absolute nothing.
And he means absolute nothing. No space, no time, no awareness, no consciousness, just void. It's tough to even picture.
It really is. But he insists we try. And from that idea of total nothingness, he draws a key conclusion.
Which is?
If there was truly nothing, there could only be one nothing. A singularity. Because if there were two nothings, something would have to separate them, right? Which means there wouldn't be nothing.
Okay, I think I follow. So this single nothing implies the whole universe is, deep down, one single process.
That's the implication. Yeah. Everything emerging from that one singular point of nothingness.
Right. So we have this absolute nothing. Then, somehow, intellect arises. How does that happen?
He argues that intellect has this built-in drive, a fundamental need to develop itself.
Like a survival instinct for the mind.
Sort of, yeah. Think about it. If you just stopped thinking, stopped learning, your mind would atrophy, right? Intellect wants to grow, to expand, to avoid decay, or potentially non-existence.
It makes sense. I mean, who actually chooses to become less intelligent? It seems counterintuitive.
Exactly. So if intellect has this drive, where does it actually exist? Is it in the brain?
He challenges that. He asks you to think about the difference between a living body and one that's just died. The atoms, the organs, they're all still there, basically the same, for a moment at least.
But the consciousness, the life, the being that's gone, so where did it go?
If it wasn't strictly in the physical stuff, because the physical stuff is still there.
Then consciousness, and by extension intellect, must exist somewhat independently of material reality. It's not just a byproduct of atoms bumping together. It transcends the physical.
So if it's not purely physical, how on earth do we study it? We can't just put it under a microscope.
Chalko says the primary tool has to be our own mind. Introspection. Studying our own subjective experience of consciousness and thought, rather than just relying on external measurements.
Which brings us back to the origin. If this great intellect existed before the physical universe, where did it come from?
His idea is that it developed itself from the simplest possible awareness within that initial singularity of nothing.
So, like, our own minds grow from basic awareness.
Kind of, yeah, just on an unimaginably vast scale. It bootstrapped itself, fueled by that inherent drive to develop, a process of self-generation from the potential within nothing.
And the key to understanding this is studying ourselves.
That's what he emphasizes. By looking at how our awareness expands, how we learn and grow intellectually, we get clues about the fundamental nature of intellect itself, maybe even echoing how the great intellect developed.
Okay, so intellect develops itself.
Mm-hmm.
But is that all there is to it? Just endless thinking?
No, Chalko argues there's more. Especially for highly developed intellects, there are deeper needs beyond just, getting smarter. Exactly. Feelings become crucial. And the most satisfying, most profound feeling of all, he argues, is love.
So this great intellect, being supremely developed, would also have this need, or maybe desire, for higher feelings.
For
love.
That's the core idea. But true love, as Chalko defines it, requires a mutual exchange. It's reciprocal. And back in the beginning, the great intellect was alone.
So to experience love, it needed company.
Yes. Other autonomous individual intellects capable of that mutual exchange, that need or desire becomes a driving force behind creation.
But how do you design things to maximize the chance of love happening, especially if it has to be freely given?
That's where free will, or as he puts it, unconstrained freedom of choice and autonomy becomes absolutely essential. You can't dictate love, you can't set limits on it, or it just isn't genuine.
So complete freedom is a must. No strings attached, otherwise it just breeds disappointment or, fakeness.
But that freedom comes with a risk, right? There's no guarantee these free intellects will choose to love in return. Their choices depend entirely on their own level of understanding and feeling.
Which leads to a really delicate problem for the designer. How do you inspire love, encourage it, without messing with that essential autonomy?
Chalko links the ability to feel these higher feelings directly to how developed an intellect is. The more you understand, the deeper you can feel. So another necessary step is creating conditions where these individual intellects can actually develop.
And there can't be any cap on that development either.
No limits. It has to be open-ended for true potential to be reached, both intellectually and emotionally.
Okay, so let's think about falling in love from the great intellect's perspective. How could it set the stage, back at the beginning, to maximize the possibility of love?
Well, commanding it is out. So the strategy has to be more subtle. First, the great intellect develops itself, imagines these feelings, especially love, intensely desires that mutual exchange. Then it imagines company, other autonomous minds.
But these minds need to be developed enough for that love to be truly meaningful, right?
Yeah.
Like loving a pet is great, but it's not the same deep connection you'd have with an equally developed intellect.
Exactly. So the great intellect needs a system, a design that encourages self-development in these new intellects and also sparks that desire within them to experience love. The goal, presumably, is to maximize the chance of receiving genuine love back.
And how does the great intellect even let these other minds know it exists? You can't fall in love with someone you don't know.
This, Chalko argues, is where nature comes in, the whole magnificent universe.
So creating reality itself is the strategy.
Yes. Creating something so incredibly beautiful, fascinating, majestic, and obviously intelligently designed. It's a way for the great intellect to reveal its own nature, its magnitude, without forcing anything.
It invites admiration first, which can then maybe grow into love by free will.
Precisely. The existence of this stunning material reality, the intricate dance of life, it's not random. It's a deliberate self-expression designed to inspire awe and potentially love in those who freely choose to see it.
So the Big Bang wasn't an accident, but an intelligently designed disturbance.
A disturbance of that initial nothingness, yeah. And the creation didn't stop there. It's ongoing, the design of atoms, galaxies, life itself. The scientific evidence for a single origin point fits this.
And he notes scientists often hit walls or get confused precisely because they don't consider conscious design.
Right. They see the complexity but resist the idea of an underlying intelligence, leading to more questions than answers sometimes. He sees the universe primarily as a work of art and beauty. That was a key design objective.
Okay, so the universe is designed to inspire us. But who are we in this picture? Who are these individual intellects it was all made for?
His answer is incredibly direct. It's us, human beings, people, you, me.
We are the purpose. Seriously.
That's his assertion. Our individual autonomous intellects, each with this unlimited potential, we are the central reason the universe was created. The potential intelligent company for that great intellect.
Potential being the key word there.
Yes, potential. It depends on whether we actually do develop our intellects, stop messing up nature, and prove that understanding to ourselves through self-study.
And the original motivation for designing us this way, remind me again.
It goes back to the great intellect's own drive. The need for development and the desire to experience higher feelings, admiration, love, which were impossible alone.
So our purpose mirrors that.
Exactly. Two key reasons for every human's existence, according to Chalko. 1, develop your individual intellect as far as you possibly can. 2, develop your ability to experience the highest feelings.
And those are the same reasons the great intellect existed from the beginning, with no limits.
Identical. Our potential intellectual evolution is meant to be limitless, just like the great intellect's own journey.
Okay, but can we really grasp all this? It sounds huge, almost unbelievable, given where most of us are at.
He acknowledges it's a big leap, but he argues that what we can perceive right here, right now, should be enough to start building our own understanding if we choose to.
It comes back to freedom of choice again, whether we even aim for that understanding.
Right. And the very intent to understand, he believes, taps into our intelligence and our intellect's ability to grow, making it possible. We are capable. We just don't know our limits unless we try.
But what about our physical bodies? They seem pretty limiting. We get sick, we age, we die. Doesn't that contradict unlimited potential?
He'd say we are the autonomous individual intellects, not just the bodies. The bodies are like temporary tools, vehicles for learning who we are.
So the limits are mostly ones we put on ourselves.
Often, yes. He sees the choice to live in a physical body as deliberate. It's a lesson of love, learning to love others at a similar stage, and also a test of our grasp of the purpose, a test we partly designed for ourselves.
And this idea that we heard it somewhere before,
Yeah.
that explains intuition.
It explains why some of these deep questions might resonate, why we might feel we already know the answers somewhere inside. Intellect existed before this body. Living physically lets us prove our understanding, reconstruct the purpose, even after the memory wipe at birth. Finding it again and again, that's a key goal.
And being physical lets us interact directly with nature, the great intellect's creation.
Exactly. It's a unique chance to study it up close, to get to know the designer, starting with our own bodies. But then he asks, how can we expect higher feelings if we trash the place?
Like the kids wrecking the beautiful house they were given.
Yeah, it shows a lack of understanding, a lack of appreciation. Life is a taint of that understanding.
This leads him to talk about worship and fear. He has strong views here.
He asks point blank, would you want your kids to just worship you blindly instead of actually understanding and appreciating you? How would that feel?
Probably. Annoying. Disappointing. Not like real connection.
Exactly. He argues worship is fundamentally unsatisfying for intelligent beings, including the great intellect. It's a sign of complete ignorance, not reverence. He even links this to how the first commandment got twisted.
So where does worship come from?
From suppressing individual intellect.
Right.
And what's a great tool for suppressing intellect? Fear.
So worship and fear go hand in hand.
Often, yes. People who worship intensely are often deeply scared. But fear, ultimately, is a choice the individual intellect makes to limit itself.
So given our potential, should we fear anything?
His answer seems to be a resounding no. The only real limits are the ones we accept or create ourselves.
Okay. So the big, so what? If we have this total freedom, how should we live?
And he's adamant. No one, not even the great intellect, can tell you exactly how to live. That would violate the whole principle of autonomy and freedom of choice.
That freedom was given for love.
For the possibility of love. And we need to learn to make our own choices to develop our intellect. So how you live, that choice is genuinely, completely yours.
But surely there are some guidelines, Some principles.
He doesn't give rules, but he offers principles aligned with the purpose. 1. Using your freedom to limit someone else's freedom. That's a crime against the purpose. It cripples the potential for higher feelings.
And the second.
Suppressing anyone's intellectual development. That actively sabotages the purpose itself.
Right. And then he gives a reality checklist. Things that do violate the purpose.
Yeah, it's quite a list. Promoting blind beliefs, using hypnosis, promoting fear of God, death, whatever, enforcing doctrines, suppressing other views, interfering with free choice.
Disrespecting individuality, restricting thought, clouding consciousness with drugs, reinforcing primitive instincts, promoting violence. It covers a lot.
And he warns that misprogramming consciousness this way is really hard to undo, like unlearning a bad habit, but much deeper.
Harder than learning it in the first place.
Much harder. For some, he says it might even take a kind of rebirth. But awakening intellect can reverse it quickly sometimes. The big exception he flags is drug use.
Why drugs specifically?
Because they can falsify sensation itself, potentially causing permanent damage to the intellect's ability to perceive reality accurately. It makes awakening much harder.
Okay, let's loop back to the universe itself. What's its real nature and purpose, according to Chalko?
The key thing. There's nothing material in the ultimate purpose. The great intellect isn't made of atoms. Intelligence isn't physical.
So the whole point is mind stuff.
100% mind-D stuff. Development of individual intellect, the great intellects, and ours. Focusing only on material existence, accumulating stuff, is a serious mistake, potentially.
So why have a material universe at all, then?
It's designed to be noticed, explored, admired for its intelligent design. To spark curiosity, stimulate intelligence, help us develop intellect and higher feelings. To learn to love.
It's a temporary playground that we might outgrow.
That's the idea, and we have the freedom of choice whether to grow up or stay playing with the material toys indefinitely. Logically, aiming for progress makes the most sense.
And the best way to make progress.
Study the design principles, the law of nature, the universal law. Understand how it works, both in matter and in consciousness. Collecting material things is secondary. Comfort only matters if it helps intellectual growth. Often, he notes, we learn more through suffering.
Which brings us to his idea of a self-correcting design.
Right. Thinking creates imagination. But doing things, acting in the world, creates consequences and allows information exchange, cause and effect.
And the consequence of acting against the purpose.
Suffering, misery. For yourself or others. The severity matches how much you disregard the purpose.
So suffering isn't pointless, it's feedback.
Exactly. Intelligence allows us to learn from that feedback, to figure out how to avoid suffering by aligning with the purpose. We keep getting the feedback until we learn the lesson, freely choosing to adopt the purpose. It's a brilliant self-correcting mechanism. Consequences are inescapable because intellect persists.
He sums it up, right? Like the Four Noble Truths.
Yeah. Suffering exists. It has a reason. Disregarding the purpose, it can be eliminated. And the way is by respecting the purpose. Very similar structure.
Can we avoid making mistakes entirely, though?
Can a child learn to walk without falling? No. Mistakes are essential for learning. The key is not to eliminate mistakes, but to avoid repeating them and learn from others' mistakes too.
A mistake being anything that disregards the purpose.
Right. Suffering should make us analyze. What did I do wrong? What was the cause? And sometimes our actions cause others to make mistakes.
Like telling someone with a victim complex they have unlimited potential before they're ready to hear it.
Exactly. It can backfire. Communication needs a plan, a method, like Colin Tipping's work or Chalko's own careful approach in the book. Take a cue from the great intellect. Design your actions intelligently.
He then tackles some common questions, like what if someone just doesn't get it or doesn't care?
Respect their freedom of choice. Let them learn from consequences, like the baby learning to walk. You can't force understanding.
What if people laugh at you or these ideas?
Remember who you are. Unlimited potential. Your feelings are your own responsibility. Their ridicule shows their stage of learning. Develop an intelligent way to handle it.
What if someone tries to physically hurt you?
Remember, the body is temporary. You are the intellect, connected to the purpose. You have the freedom to defend yourself, but weigh the consequences, short-term survival versus long-term growth. Consciousness itself can't be destroyed, only may be self-damaged by misprogramming.
And suicide.
He sees it as a sign of not understanding the purpose, the value of physical life as a lesson. Basically, failing the test, the likely result, having to repeat similar lessons until understanding dawns.
Okay, let's talk about the basic tools of intellect he outlines. First up,
Perception.
Yeah, our fundamental tool for noticing nature. He says it works by the universal law of contrast. We only perceive things when they stand out against a background.
Like text on a page or feeling healthy after being sick?
Exactly. It applies everywhere.
Yeah.
We can use contrast deliberately to understand things better, like contemplating the lack of love to appreciate love itself. Nature is full of harmonious contrasts, like colors in flowers against leaves.
He mentions pink-purple flowers against green leaves being common for optimal contrast. Right. And things like scent as another contrast for less optimally colored flowers. It's all about stimulating perception, which then engages other faculties. Pay more attention to what you can perceive.
Next tool, filtering information. We're bombarded constantly.
Most people ignore almost everything or rely on others' summaries. Chalko says develop your own filter based on the purpose.
A key question.
Does it contravene the purpose? Or does it suppress intellectual development? Or does it compromise freedom of choice? Simple, but powerful for cutting through noise.
Then meditation and concentration, are they the same?
No, distinct but both vital. Meditation is aiming for mental silence, no thoughts. Concentration is focusing attention on something specific: imagination, problem-solving, feelings.
And we can't do either indefinitely.
Right, back to the law of contrast. Cyclic changes are needed. Think work and rest. Meditation is like deep rest for the intellect, purging thoughts, making space for new ideas, increasing efficiency. It's as vital as sleep for the body. He gives a simple mantra technique.
He also gives examples of concentration exercises.
Yes, like concentrating on love, metta, expanding that feeling outwards, concentrating on visions that arise in deep meditation, concentrating on the inner sound in silence.
The inner sound one sounds intense, leading to a tunnel and light.
Yeah, potentially experiences like those reported in near-death experiences. He interprets the light as your higher self, an interface to the great intellect. You might understand everything there, but forget details upon return. The memory wipe serves the purpose of testing our understanding in physical life, not just recall.
And the cross exercise.
A practical concentration exercise using overlapping circles to train focus, usable anywhere. Very intensive, good prep for meditation or calming down when stressed.
He also addresses responding to psychic attack. Is that like black magic?
Sort of. Misuse of natural telepathic abilities to cause harm via fear and misinformation. But he says the best defense is remembering your unlimited potential harm only happens if you consciously agree. Calm your mind quickly. Meditation helps. Since minds are in direct communication during an attack, use it to send your own message. Fear empowers the attacker. Clarity disarms them. The wisest response aligned with the purpose. Send love.
Love your enemies.
Exactly. Attackers often lack love. Feeling it from you can change their perception. It's powerful but requires immense self-discipline. Asking your higher self for assistance makes it more effective. You have to really mean it. He shares a personal experience of doing this.
Okay, shifting gears. Measuring progress. How should we do it? He's critical of using money, right?
Very critical. He sees the obsession with money and material things as a trap, limiting awareness and choice. Remember Alexander the Great, realizing possessions meant nothing at death.
Our intellects evolve over potentially many lifetimes, he suggests. Material stuff doesn't come with us.
Right. Nature's purpose is intellectual development. Higher feelings need evolved intellect. Can money measure that? Can it buy intelligence or love? No.
So aiming for money versus aiming for intellectual growth leads to different outcomes.
Totally different directions. Intellectual growth opens infinite horizons, satisfaction, higher feelings. The money-focused path. He argues it often involves taking advantage of others, trapping people in a system controlled by the ruthless.
He even asks if governments and science are puppets of money.
Yeah. The result of using money as the measure: discouraged intellect, illusion of progress, compromised freedom, negative feelings. A materialistic attitude leads to intellect being suppressed by primitive minds. But this extreme contrast can also accelerate understanding for those who see it. It's always freedom of choice.
What about educating children? What's his take?
The main focus should be creating optimal conditions for intellectual development. He criticizes the current system for often doing the opposite.
How so?
Minimal grade differences, regardless of effort, focus on pass rates for funding, no recognition for individuality or real intelligence, often penalizing questioning. Kids get bored because reality is presented as boring, when it's fascinating if you actually learn about it.
He shares an anecdote about that.
Yeah, a child penalized for being bored but showing intelligence. And his own university teaching experience where motivation dropped because the system didn't reward self-development. It prefers conformity over intellect.
And his views on science and technology, also critical.
Largely, yes. Controlled by money, knowledge treated as property. Scientists focus on material reality and gain, often overlooking the immense intellect required to design even an atom.
He thinks tech is used against us.
Often used against intellectual development in nature because the establishment ignores the need for real intellect. Inventions turned into weapons or tools for misinformation and control.
Like giving a child the keys to a plane. Technology without wisdom.
Exactly. Material technology without spiritual knowledge is leading us to global catastrophe. We need to understand what we're doing and why. The material universe is temporary. Its sole purpose is intellectual growth.
So tech should assist that growth.
Yes. But current motives, money, time-saving, dependency, power, are often irrelevant to the grand plan, even violating the purpose. Look at the results. Destruction of nature, pollution, arrogance. He links extreme weather to pollution.
He warns against being too impressed by computers, too.
Dependence can cripple thinking. Scientists develop intellect but often miss the purpose. Few admit a grand plan is even possible. Doctrines get protected over discoveries. Journalists reinforce the expert illusion. Nature is disregarded.
He says earth science isn't even advanced, using gravity as an example.
Yeah. We pollute massively just fighting gravity. Why don't we fall off? We're still searching for the origin of mass. If what can be seen is obscure to you, how can you hope to comprehend what cannot be seen? Nature doesn't use wheels or their smarter solutions. Beauty was a key design goal.
He issues a challenge to scientists.
To explain, generate, and overcome gravity, stop polluting. He says he'll take up the challenge publicly when humanity stops weaponizing discoveries. His final thought there. If you insist that only crawling is possible, you may never learn to fly.
What about evolution?
He argues evolution happens primarily in intellect. Physical changes follow conscious learning. Bacteria learning resistance is a skill, not evolving into something else. How do they learn from dead generations? Suggests consciousness continues.
So trying to kill things might just teach them to fight back better?
Could be. Hurting other life hurts us. Why haven't we seen bacteria evolve into other things if they're the basis? He also argues many species must exist simultaneously for harmony, for symbiosis. Coexistence is great for learning.
Okay, let's revisit the freedom of choice itself, the big questions.
Who are you? How do you live? What will become of you? You are individual intellect, unlimited potential, autonomy, freedom of choice. No one else can do the work for you. We are individual for a reason.
He criticizes we are all one ideas.
Says they don't explain reality and cripple individuality and free will, which are necessary for high feelings like love. We have common origin, same purpose, we're brothers and sisters, but not literally one.
Love one another is good advice, though.
Great advice for practicing higher feelings. How high can you go? Only self-imposed limits. You even have the freedom to extinguish conscious existence by stopping thinking.
Our final destination.
No limits but self-imposed ones. Understanding the beginning and the purpose helps you imagine and create your own destination. The real danger isn't physical death, it's the way we live. Final question again. What do you choose?
He talks about the most difficult thing for him personally.
The freedom to choose not to do anything, the temptation of inaction, finding and keeping motivation for thinking, self-study, progress, that's hard. The greatest limitation to overcome is yourself. What did you do today to overcome yours?
And the ego. Should we kill it?
No, he tried and failed. Says the self-ego can't be eliminated. Individuality is the point. Suppressing it violates the purpose, leads to misery. The solution, educate the ego. Study it, nurture it, convince it, teach it love. Everything exists within the self. Good, bad, all contrasts needed for choice and perception. Examine the self, show it its potential, teach it conscious choosing, convince it choices matter, teach it to choose love. Phenomenal self-discipline needed. Motivation must come from within. Daily motivation is harder than finding it initially. It's all about freedom of choice.
What about do you believe? He seems wary of belief.
Calls believing anything a major danger to intellect, including believing something's impossible. Belief means no need to know, relying on others without checking. It keeps intellect dormant.
Only what you understand yourself matters.
Yes. Adopting beliefs is worse than physical destruction because it corrupts intellect with consent. Need to know, not believe. That comes from intellectual development. Admit all possibilities, analyze them, make conscious choices. Beliefs paralyze intellect. Examine your own beliefs.
Understanding is everything. This seems crucial.
Life experiences only matter if understood. Consciousness evolves only through increased understanding of reality. That's individual work. Like the monkey at the physics lecture exposure isn't comprehension.
It's not how much info you get, but what you understand today.
Exactly. Lack of understanding wastes lifetimes, causes misery. Look at ancient scriptures memorized but not understood, leading to hatred, abuse. Limited understanding promotes fear for control. Conflicts, irrational worship today stem from this.
He uses the example of worshiping the cross.
A torture device. Lack of understanding sabotages wise messages, leads to brainwashing. People rely on interpretations, don't check if they're being cheated, submit free will to self-proclaimed proxies. Does the great intellect need a proxy given our own intellect and freedom?
It's not what but WHY that counts most.
Motives, not just actions. Conscious choice proves understanding to ourselves. Helping others, is it genuine or exploitation? Analyze your motives, choose them consciously, improve them. Discern others' motives. Lies disguised as love, stupidity as spirituality. Can you see them?
What about the past? Should we dwell on it?
Do you remember every fall learning to walk? Irrelevant. What matters is what you learned. Understanding today shapes choices today, which shape tomorrow. Don't live in the past. Focus on understanding and choosing now.
And the future? Should we want to know it?
He argues knowing it would hinder learning, like cheating on an exam. Wanting to know the future contravenes the purpose, sabotages evolution. Believing prophecies breeds hopelessness, kills motivation. Some future aspects are predictable from choices, pollution causing disaster, but understanding who you are today determines your future. Your choices determine development.
Then my choice, Chalko's personal journey.
He summarizes his zigzag life, exploring extremes, achieving things only to find that was not it. Final conclusion: live consciously with purpose aligned with the grand plan. Formulate your own purpose. Be ready to expand it.
Only after out-of-body experiences and discovering the origin and purpose did he choose to stay physical.
Yes. Realized the body is the best tool for his limited intellect to explore the universe. Value its feedback. So much he didn't know about his own body. Humanity is at the bottom of conscious evolution, following instincts. His attitude shifted when he saw the body as a gift for learning. The best teacher is within.
He learned to trust his intellect and says we can too.
With intent and self-discipline, it doesn't happen automatically. Conscious progress is needed. Only then did he see others as individual intellects with unlimited potential. His choice: stay physical. Learn from body and nature. Life is a wonderful chance to develop intellect and learn to love and become loved. Imagine if everyone saw it that way. But freedom of choice.
What about helping others then?
If these ideas resonate, you might discuss them, but don't assume your logic is theirs. Some use intellect to block understanding. Pushing creates resistance. Respect their freedom of choice.
He tells a story about that.
Yeah, someone disagreeing with an easy question. Lesson. Let people experience their own view. Refrain from explaining to those not ready. Better. Ask questions that provoke self-examination. Well-designed questions are unforgettable, spur long-term growth, harder than making statements. Listen carefully first. The book has 350 questions.
Be prepared for making others think.
Yes. Harder than understanding yourself. The more you understand, the harder it is to find others who get it instantly. Normal. Evolved intellects used parables, questions, expect opposition, ridicule. Einstein, Plato faced it from mediocre minds. Can't blame those. Not ready. Sad when intelligence isn't used for advancement, but respect freedom of choice. Let consequences teach.
He finishes with one more quote.
If your leaders say to you, behold, the kingdom is in the sky, the birds will get there before you. If they say it is in the sea, the fish get there before you. Rather, the kingdom is within, and whoever knows everything but lacks within, lacks everything.
Why haven't we figured that out in 2,000 years? What's wrong?
Their freedom of choice.
And the final point. The proof.
What's 2 plus 2? Can you prove it? To a chicken. If intellect can't imagine the possibility or purpose, proof is impossible.
So the only way to get proof is?
Develop your individual intellect.
Yeah.
Which is the very purpose of the entire universe. The alternative is staying ignorant. What do you choose?
Well, thank you for joining us on this really deep dive into Thomas J. Chalko's The Freedom of Choice. It's pretty amazing he wrote it in just 7 days during a fast, but it represents, what, 40 years of thinking?
Incredible focus.
Yeah.
We really hope this discussion sparked something for you, got you thinking. And maybe, like Chalko suggested, revisiting these ideas later might bring even more understanding as your own perspective shifts.
Yeah, definitely food for thought. We'd love to hear what you think. You can continue the conversation online. There's thefreedomforum.com for specific book discussion, www.theawuba.com for more about the author generally, and SciEresearch.com for his research work.
We'll do our best to check out the comments and thoughts you share there.
So until next time.
With love and light, Tom Chalko.
And one last thought to leave you with, from the book. Man exists physically for the sole purpose of developing spiritually.